Last week, I ran a workshop where people brought their training topic and we designed a game to teach that topic. And before the workshop, I sent people a whole bunch of questions just so they'd come prepared with their content. And as the answers rolled in, I started noticing that for some of them, the second I read their answers, the whole game just popped into my head and I was like, oh, this is going to be fun, it's going to be relevant, I'm excited about building it. While for others, I was like, I got nothing. And you can just tell when a project is going to be like chewing rocks the whole time. And the thing that stood out is that the difference between design heaven and design hell has nothing to do with the topic. It's got everything to do with how well people answered the questions. So let's look at the questions, the answers that make it all come together, and the answers that will put you in a world of design pain. And by the way, if you want to join my next live workshop, you can sign up at the link below. It's free and you'll walk away with a game design for your specific topic and a repeatable methodology that you can use for any e-learning in the future. Okay, so what we're doing with these questions is really looking at your content and trying to extract from it a statement that looks something like this. After training, some specific group of learners will perform a specific behavior at a specific desired level instead of their current level so that some desirable outcome is achieved. So let's say the statement is, bank tellers will identify counterfeit bills 95% of the time instead of their current 80% so that losses to fraud are reduced. That's an easy course to envision, right? It's a lot easier than employees will be familiar with AI prompting so that their productivity increases. Each of these blanks comes from the answer to one of my questions, just like in a game of Mad Libs. And the first question is, what is the overall goal of your course? And there's 3 types of answers that are going to make your life harder than it needs to be. First, there's the super vague, like work performance will be improved. What performance are we talking about? And you want it to improve from what to what. If I don't know what we're aiming at, I don't know what to build. Another super common culprit is learners will pass knowledge checks with a score of at least 90%. Okay, that's measurable and observable, but it's describing something that's going to happen in the course, not the real world. So it's like you're saying the goal of the course is to do well in the course. There's certainly a reason why getting 90% of the course matters. I just don't know what that reason is by just looking at this. And this third one is sneaky. People sometimes know they shouldn't say things like, nurses will feel confident. They know that a feeling isn't observable, so what they'll say instead is, nurses will report 20% more confidence, like on a survey. Okay, that's measurable, but again, we want them to feel confident so that they do what? Intervene more often, ask more questions, challenge the doctors? And why are those things desirable? What will that change in the real world? So what we're really trying to get at is people pass your course, some mental state changes, they act differently in the world, and that leads to a desirable outcome. What is that outcome? Well, good examples included things like reduce safety incidents by 20%, increase the restaurant cleanliness score from a 5 to an 8, and decrease average customer wait time down to under 60 seconds. All observable, all specific, all real world. The point of having this goal is that as you come up with more and more learning activities, you can evaluate which one is going to make the biggest difference to that actual result. And that leads us to another example which is close but will come back to bite you later. Employees will write AI prompts that include all 4 essential components 100% of the time. That's pretty good. It's observable, it's real world, but the problem is that this is a behavior. And I don't know if this is an important behavior if I don't know what we're trying to achieve here. So a cleaner way to answer this is to skip the behavior altogether and name the countable outcome you're looking for. Okay, the next question is easier. Who's the learner? And all you need here is their role and the context. Hotel managers, lab staff who work with toxins, coffee shop baristas. Done. And I know I'm going to get in trouble for this, but you don't need personality metrics and demographics, okay? If I have to teach you how to create a good AI prompt, I don't care if you're a dog person or a cat person. I say this because a lot of ID models have you come up with complete learner personas like they do in marketing to sell people soap or a movie. And there's a couple of problems with that, but the main one is that learners taking a course don't usually select it the same way people select a movie to watch. People often end up in training out of necessity. So the relevant thing that they all have in common is that they all have to do one specific thing. So the most important information about these people is where they are, where they start, where they need to be, and what stands in their way. That's all going to be handled by other questions, but your course is the bridge between that 0 state and that hero state. Now, if you want to know your learners' interests because you want to create a wrapper around your course that echoes their tastes, have at it, but that's not going to save a course that doesn't present the right relevant activities in the first place. Question 3 is the most important and the most challenging one. What is the most impactful behavior these learners need to perform in order for that ultimate goal to become a reality? You've all seen this kind of thing. Learners will understand the tasks of a webmaster, feel empathy for the homeless, or be aware of the safety risks. Knowledge, feelings, and awareness are not observable. But more importantly, they're usually not enough to change people's behavior. People pass knowledge checks all the time. They know what they're supposed to do, but for some reason they don't do it on the job because there's some obstacle in the way. So instead of these statements, we need a behavior that starts with an action verb. Decontaminate clinical instruments. Identify the vessel involved in a stroke. Complete an accident report. This is harder than it looks. First, because clients often give us learning objectives like these. Understand, feel, appreciate. But you can usually find a way to take these mental states and make them observable by asking things like, how does someone behave differently when they feel empathy versus when they don't? What do they do differently when they appreciate the risks? Now you've turned it into something that you can see. Challenge number 2 is the dreaded, they just need to know it for compliance. But even if the person isn't really going to do anything with that information, and that's rare, the best way to learn the information is still by doing something. So it's still useful to turn that knowledge into behaviors that you can use in the course to make it active learning. And challenge number 3 is, if your goal is something like increase customer satisfaction, you'll find there's a ton of different behaviors that can contribute to that. So when I'm coming up with a design, I pick the one behavior that's going to have the biggest impact on that outcome, like the biggest bang for my training buck. Of course, you can show more than one behavior, but it's important to isolate each one and to work on them one at a time. And now that we have the behavior, we can answer question 4, how well should they perform this behavior? How fast, how accurate, how often? And this matters because very often we're training people on something that they're doing already, but they're just not doing it well. So it's not enough to say they'll resolve customer complaints. They need to resolve them in a very specific way, which they're not doing right now. That can mean doing it more consistently, faster, with fewer mistakes and fewer steps, whatever. So describe the manner in which they should do it. For example, every time they receive a complaint, that's frequency. Within 20 seconds, that's speed. Correctly at least 95% of the time, that's accuracy. And if I'm finding it hard to answer this, I like to ask myself, what's the difference between how an untrained newbie does it and a seasoned pro like my SME? Maybe a medical resident can diagnose a patient accurately, no problem, but an experienced doctor gets the same diagnosis by running fewer tests. That gives you the real hero state to aim at. It's not enough to just do the job, you have to do it at an appropriate level. And now that we have the hero state, we can now find the zero state. So question 5 is, what's happening right now with respect to this behavior? Are they not doing it at all or not enough, or what's the current situation? This will often be a mirror of your desired performance, your hero state. You want them to identify all the risks, but right now they're only identifying the physical risks. You want them to do it in 30 seconds. Right now they're taking 5 minutes. Other great examples that I saw included they often apply the wrong policy. They usually skip steps in the procedure. They're only doing it when reminded. These are all describing how people are currently going about this behavior. And the point of this question is to figure out the learner's starting point. We're going to build them a series of challenges to take them from newbie to master, but we have to figure out what the right on-ramp is. If right now they're building 10 widgets a minute, I can't start by asking you to build 20 widgets a minute. That's too much of a jump from where they are. Same if we start by asking them to build 3 widgets a minute, that's too easy and therefore boring. And the one way I saw answers go wrong here is instead of explaining what learners are doing incorrectly right now, people will explain why they're not at the desired level. They'll say things like, the company policy has changed, learners don't understand why this is important, or they need more training. This doesn't tell me what they're doing right now, just why they're not doing the right thing. But the why can matter quite a bit, which is why I have a bonus question. Why aren't they doing it already? What actually makes this hard? And this question does 2 things for you. First, it tells you what to actually train people on. Let's say you want learners to refuse gifts from suppliers. There may be a few possible reasons why they're not doing that, but if you know that it's because they're worried about giving offense, then you're not going to train them on the policy which they already know. It's not about knowledge. Instead, you're going to train them on how to refuse, what to say in order to handle that discomfort. It also tells you what obstacles that people will face in real life so that you include them in your challenges and train them up. So if you're teaching me to take a good picture of a bacterium, and the reason why this is hard to do in real life is because the little buggers are zipping around all the time, then they need to move around in the challenge that you design as well. When you dig just a little bit and you get precise answers, the design just falls into place. Analysts will create AI prompts using the 4 components instead of just one so that they get a useful answer on the first try. I'm already starting to see the learning activity here. Yes, getting these answers is just the first part of the job. In fact, I call it step 0. And I'm not gonna lie, this is not my favorite part of the process, but it is the part that decides whether or not the rest of the design process feels like butter or like you're skating on gravel. And if you want the full step-by-step methodology to create super engaging and effective training out of any topic, book a free consulting call with me at the link below. We'll see if my program, the Effective Gamification Framework, is a good fit for you. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.